My man, Bryce Elder towed the rubber. I might be the only person left on Bryce Elder Island, but he toes the rubber yesterday. The Braves do lose the game, but Bryce Elder, I mean, 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs. And really, it was just 1 inning where he gave up the 2 runs. I thought really good stuff from Bryce Elder, and it's a guy who's pitched outside of his last outing in Gwinnett where he got shelled. He's pitched really, really well, gone deep into games, struck out a lot of batters. So I was happy to see him up there, give a good start. We'll see how the Braves want to approach things. They have been doing this six-man rotation. They didn't really have a choice today with the doubleheader and stuff. So we'll see how they approach the rotation moving forward. But just another one of those guys. I mean, we talk about Schwellenbach, we talk about Bryce Elder, we talk about Ian Anderson working his way back. AJ Smith-Shawver will eventually come back. I mean, someone, as we keep saying, is going to take a hold of this fifth spot in the rotation and be pretty damn good. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later because, the Braves, as we say, they got to make up ground in the division at some point.
Yeah, and I think my biggest thing with sports fans is always like the Braves do it better than it, not too high, not too low. And sports fans, that's pretty much impossible to ask them to do, not to get too high, too low. That's the name of the game with sports. Bryce Elder is such a polarizing figure in Atlanta where that all-star campaign, the first half of last season, it gave a completely unrealistic idea of who Bryce Elder was. And then the second half of last season also did the same exact thing in the opposite direction. And he struggled out of the gates this year. And then he went down to Gwinnett and had, I think, maybe 4 or 5 outings where he went like 6 or 7 innings, maybe 1-run ball several times over. And it kind of gave that idea, was like, this guy does know how to pitch. He's just not a frontline guy. And that's perfectly fine if you're the Atlanta Braves just looking for that fifth guy. And when you Braves fans who expect every fifth starter to go out there and throw 6 scoreless, stop being an idiot. You're a moron. Pitching is so damn hard in this sport that you have to, kind of come back down to earth that's a great outing for a fifth starter. Oh, and by the way, we are doing this 6-man rotation, which I think shouldn't end. And I know that these pitchers are creatures of habits and everything like that, especially the vets. Max Fried's been doing it a long time. Chris Sale's been doing it a long time. Charlie Morton's been doing it a long time. But if they're perfectly okay doing this every 6th day, I do not see a reason why they shouldn't keep it going, even if somebody like Schwellenbach or Elder kind of comes up and takes that 5th spot. Because the name of the game is longevity. It's a marathon. October is what our goal is. And when you're talking about October, you're talking about Max Fried's longevity, which is a question mark. Ronaldo Lopez's longevity, huge question mark. Chris Sale's longevity. Hell, Charlie Morton's been a workhorse, but still, Charlie Morton's 40 years old, his longevity. So I think obviously the goal is to find, I've said it multiple times, the goal is to find a 5th starter and for future rotations too. That guy might end up being the 4th starter in future rotations, but the primary goal is to keep our horses healthy. That's the primary goal with all of this. Bryce Elder goes out there and turns in another impressive outing, and I expect him to stick in the rotation, especially the 6-man rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the 6-man rotation as long as the guys
are okay with it.
As long as they're pitching well. I mean, like Max Fried, Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez seem to be pitching fantastic every 6 days. So keep running it out there. And yeah, the number one goal has to be keeping them healthy. We'll see how things change. I think the biggest things when things might change, it's going to be dependent on whether this NL East is a race, coming down the stretch, because obviously, having those guys pitch every sixth day, you're losing starts from your best pitchers. So you have them you only have your best starters out there half the game instead of 60% of the game. So there is, obviously a knock there where you're having Bryce Elder make starts that Max Fried should be making starts and Chris Sale should be making starts. But, if you're 15 games back in the division, that doesn't really matter. You just need to, tuck it in, say, hey, y'all won this. We're going to prepare for October. But you can't even really be thinking about this division this early. If it's around in August and you make some trade deadline trades and you're playing better baseball.
Well, I think it's perfectly, even if we aren't in the division, let's say, we get to the end of July, beginning of August, mid-August, and it's still like 7-8 games or something like that. I think we should still just kind of morph into that 5-man rotation where we're getting these guys,
well,
you know,
have to.
geared up.
You have to, no matter what, because, you know, those guys could be pitching on 4 days rest come October. So, yeah, they're definitely, I mean, at some point,
no matter what,
at some point, they're not going to have a 6-man rotation. But if they do it to the All-Star break, maybe a little after the All-Star break to the trade deadline, whatever they want to do. Yeah, I mean, listen, as long as Chris Sale and Max Fried is not messing anything up with them, which it clearly isn't because they're pitching better than probably any 1-2 punch in baseball right now, then yeah, the 6-man rotation is fine. But I thought Bryce Elder looked good. I think he gets the Orlando Arcia treatment, which is unfair because Orlando Arcia actually sucks. Bryce Elder doesn't. Orlando Arcia was never a starting shortstop. The Braves are absolute fools for convincing themselves they're a starting shortstop. I was saying this all offseason that they needed to get a shortstop, but Alex Anthopoulos, listen, love the guy. Unbelievable. Can't ever bash the guy, but I'm bashing him. I mean, what the hell are we doing? Why is Orlando Arcia the starting shortstop of the Atlanta Braves? That's the story for another day. I could do.
You know what I love?
I could do a 40-minute show on that.
My favorite thing, nachos.
Nachos. Come on, give me Nacho Alvarez, man. I mean, unfortunately, I don't even want Nacho Alvarez up this early, but I don't think they have a choice because it's hard to get a shortstop at the trade deadline. And Arcia sucks.